All right, so the game is really good. I want to dive into specifics, but if you wanted to just hear that, that's all you really need to know, right? The demo was really good. I had a great time playing it. I think it took me maybe an hour, but that's because I was playing through it extremely slowly. Like I was stopping around every corner and just looking at the graphics, looking at the enemy design, stuff like that. But yeah, if that's all you wanted to hear, in summary, the game is great. I think it's probably worth a pre-order. I have some notes written down here to kind of dive a little bit more into the specifics of different aspects of the game. And there's a few things I really wanted to touch on. First up, graphics. I don't want to talk about this too much, but when it comes to the character designs, it's very early to late 2000s, I would say. When game developers really tried to put attractive characters into video games to try and pull in like the teenage audience. I have zero problem with this. It's not exactly something I care about too much. I remember when I was a kid, there was a game called Heavenly Sword. I think that's what it was called. I can't really remember, but the game had a lot of good assets, and it didn't really matter back then. I'm not really sure why it matters now. As long as the gameplay is good, the combat's good, the environmental graphics are good, the character rendering is good, I don't really have a problem with a good-looking protagonist. And I'm not quite sure why anyone really does. Even when there are male characters in video games, they tend to not look super average, right? Like Batman from the Arkham series is super buff. If you think an average guy looks like that, you're probably wrong. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about when it comes to like character graphics and the route they really chose with the protagonist. I like the way she looks. I have no problem with it, and I don't think it's going to be a big issue for anyone once they start playing the game. But yeah, so character looks great. I think something a lot of people ignore because of the discussion around the main character is the enemy design. This is some of the best enemy design I've seen outside of Souls games. Right, Souls games tend to do enemies really well. They're oftentimes really grandiose, really big. And if they're not really big, they're small, but they're still really gory looking. I don't know if that's the right way to like describe them, but the enemies in Stellar Blade look amazing. There's a boss you get to kind of attack in this demo, and the boss has like teeth that act like a chainsaw almost. And there's like an animation where if you get grabbed by the boss will literally like shred you down its chainsaw teeth. It's super cool. And the enemy design's phenomenal. I get really, really excited when the enemies are well created, right? Because a lot of games will focus on the protagonist and kind of get lazy with the enemies. Another game in recency that I remember, a Souls-like game that did this really well, is Lies of P. I played through that game, and I loved every minute of it because the enemy designs were really good too, especially the boss designs. The normal mobs were okay, but the boss designs where Lies of P really shined. Stellar Blade, even the normal enemies look really good. Granted, the demo's not super long, but the enemies that I did get to come across looked really, really good. It looked like they put a lot of effort into it. Next thing I wanted to talk about was environment. Sorry, I keep looking down here. I just have some notes written down so I don't forget about some of like my main points that I wanted to touch on. But yeah, and when it comes to environment, beautiful, like kind of torn down, apocalyptic type of city. I've seen this before in Nier Automata. Obviously the graphics weren't to this detail. Nier Automata looked really good from an art perspective, but it didn't necessarily have the budget to push it from a technological perspective. This game pushes it in the technological perspective as well, right? I'm not sure if this is done in Unreal Engine 5, but the game looks amazing. I remember the feeling I got when I first played Horizon Forbidden West. That's the newer one, right? Yeah, Zero Dawn's the old one. When I first played Horizon Forbidden West on PS5 with the next-gen graphics and everything, that's the same feeling I got when I played this demo. It's been a while since I kind of got that, oh my god, the graphical fidelity is amazing. That kind of feeling is not always something that I come across. And this game kind of merges the art direction and graphical fidelity really well and creates a really beautiful game. And it's just amazing to look at. Towards the initial, like maybe 20 minutes of the game, you come across this bridge you have to go across. And I just stood in the middle of that bridge. It's a little bit of parkour that you have to do on that bridge. Nothing serious, just like kind of introducing to swinging on handlebars, stuff like that. But I just waited in the middle of that bridge and I just looked at the water and like the vistas that I could see. Just phenomenally, like a lot of detail put into the game, just beautifully created. So environments, A++. Particle effects is something else that I wanted to talk about because there is a lot of, I guess, colors that the game utilizes to show you how to approach enemy combat, right? Like if an enemy's doing like this blue like attack, then you have to utilize one of the skills where Eve goes behind the enemy, kind of almost teleports behind the enemy and doesn't attack from behind. So these color cues have a lot of particle effects to them as well. When Eve takes her sword out, when she's slashing about, there's a lot of particle effects. I think the game utilized the next gen engine kind of in a really, they really tried to push it here. And I love the graphics and every little bit of those particle effects. All right, so let's talk about the story. There's not a lot to say here. I'm going to try and keep it relatively spoiler-free. I am going to spoil something that happens in the first 5 minutes of the game. If you're against a spoiler that happens in the first 5 minutes of the game, and I get it because I'm kind of against those kind of spoilers too, just skip ahead maybe a minute. I'm going to just touch on it and move past it. So yeah, that's your warning. Hopefully you're gone by now if you don't want spoilers for the first 5 minutes of the game. So there's a character that saves you in the very first minute of the game, kind of opens out a door for you that's crash landed onto the planet and helps you out, and you're fighting through mobs of enemies with her, and you get to a point where you get to fight this mini boss. I don't think you're necessarily supposed to win against this mini boss. At least for me, what happened was the mini boss ended up killing me, all my health went down, and then a cutscene occurred where I was about to die. This friend comes in the way and basically takes the hit for you and in a very gory fashion dies. That's all I'll say about that. But that's how the story gets going. And I'm not sure if they wanted it to hit as hard as, say, The Last of Us, the beginning hour of The Last of Us. But it didn't hit super hard. The only thing I did say kind of surprised me was the gore. I didn't realize this game would want to push that much gore. I didn't even think that it was going to be super, blood kind of gore. I thought it would be more like, Lies of P, where you kind of hit the enemy and the enemy kind of just crumples apart or something. I don't know. I didn't really expect it to be that gory, right? And that's a good thing. It's a good thing it's as gory as it is. I like games that kind of lean on that more mature side. So I thought it was phenomenally done. And after that, you get saved by this guy who isn't, I guess, best in the field. So he has this drone that he kind of connects to, and you walk around with this drone, and the guy is talking to you through the drone. And that's fine. I get that they probably didn't want to, I guess, design an entire NPC that walks alongside you through the entire game, considering this is more of like a Souls-like, so you want kind of like that solo experience. So I was completely okay with it. I like that there's a decent amount of dialogue there, lots of voice acting. It's not like you have to read text on a screen. Everything's voice acted. So this seems like a fully fledged AAA game. And yeah, so the story, I'm not sure what path it's going to take, but it seems interesting enough for now. This isn't something that I'm going to be considering the reason I play the game, the reason I stick with the game. Everything else that this game does is why I loved it so much. So I'm not going to, talk too much more about the story here. So let's talk about level design, right? So when it comes to Souls games or Souls-like games, level design is one of the most important aspects, at least to me, because exploration is something that I consider to be really important. When it comes to this game, the level design was really good for me, but I am kind of scared a lot of people aren't going to like it. If I wanted to put it into a kind of like a shape, I would say it's after you actually, beat the first 10 minutes of the game or so, you get put into this abandoned like city, like post-apocalyptic city, and you basically go in a straight line. You make a U-turn and you come back in a straight line, and there's a shortcut you can kind of open up there. I was completely okay with this. It's like a big U kind of, if you want to put a letter to it, but I thought that was fine. Like for a Souls game, that makes sense, right? You want to fight through enemies. You do a little bit of exploration. There's some side streets you can take to open up chests, find passwords for those chests, stuff like that. But yeah, I thought that the level design was good enough. I never really had a problem with Souls games, level designs, even for other games. Like a lot of people thought Lies of P was really linear, but I loved the level design for Lies of P even. So take that from someone who doesn't usually have a lot to complain about when it comes to games like this. I love the level design. They even added a little bit of verticality there because this isn't like a Souls game where, you know, you can't climb walls and stuff. They did add some, what do you call it? You know, when she's like jumping up on ledges and going from one ledge to the next, there is a little bit of that, some climbing and some traversal. And it was decent enough. It wasn't really difficult. It was easy to spot because it does the classic like yellow marking on the wall, so the player's attention is immediately attracted to that wall. So it's not really hard to miss. I think I explored everything and I was able to find almost everything as well. In fact, I find the level design for like Souls-like games like Dark Souls 3 a little bit harder even. But coming from like Bloodborne as my first Souls game, I thought the exploration was really well done here. So yeah, level design's really good. The boss location was on top of like this parking garage, and I thought it was really well designed. Usually, I'm not a fan of like post-apocalyptic cities, especially if it's like, if it looks too samey to other games, because I think it's been done a lot. But here, I didn't mind it. I think the game's just so graphically well done that the overused, I guess, apocalyptic city location didn't really bother me. I was just so amazed by the amount of detail that have gone into these assets. But I did love the game overall in terms of its graphical fidelity. So let's talk a little bit about combat. The game, I've seen a lot of other reviewers talk about combat wasn't like the star of the show, or combat was it was nothing bad, but it also wasn't anything good. I just watched a video by Mr. Matty Plays, and I love watching his videos. I feel like me and him agree a lot on a lot of different topics when it comes to gameplay. And he said that the combat was okay, like it was subpar, and it didn't do anything amazing, it didn't do anything bad. I heavily disagree. I think combat was probably the star of the show for me. It felt very Nioh 2 almost, where the attacks are super flashy. It's not like Dark Souls where it's really grounded and you can't really jump or anything. It's you attack with your really big sword, really big whatever, and it's not like that straightforward. It's a lot more flashy, right? You'll get to do these like animation counters where if you parry an enemy enough, you break down his shield, you press triangle and you get to do this really cool attack, and you rip through the enemy and you slice through the entire body of the enemy. I thought those moments were so rad. There's like a jump attack you can do where you're jumping on top of an enemy, and the animation for that is really cool. And I get super excited just talking about it because not a lot of games put a lot of detail like that into the animations and make you feel that, freaking badass when you're fighting the bosses and stuff. So, and these animations will actually take place mid boss fights even. If you parry the boss enough, it'll do that kind of animation. So I thought the combat was the star of the show. That was my favorite part of the game. The graphics were really good. The character animations and all of that's really good. But combat is, I think, the star of the show here. If you really liked that kind of combat Nioh 2 had, I think that's probably what you're going to get here as well, where it's a little flashy and you're using a really big sword. I don't know that this game will have like different weapons you can use because there's an upgrade tree for the weapon itself and the upgrade tree for the protagonist. So I'm not sure that you'll get like that loot grinding kind of experience that you would get from Nioh 2 and other games. But I thought the combat was a dream. That is the reason I am super excited for this game. I played the demo going into it. I was like, maybe I'll play it, maybe I won't. But coming out of it, I'm 100% wanting to pre-order it just because the combat was that good. Okay, if you take anything away from this video, take that. The combat was really good. Combat's really good, and that kind of bleeds into the audio in this game because the audio cues, I think, are part of what makes the combat really good. A lot of games will create like a really good combat system, but they won't create like a thumpy audio, right? They won't create that feeling of really hitting the enemy. And since this game is on PS5, that's what I played the demo on, the combination of the DualSense controller giving you like those rumble effects alongside with the really great audio just uplifts that combat system so much more, right? Like the combat was good on its own, and even if I was playing on mute, that's a good combat system. But if you're feeling the rumble in the controller and also listening to those audio cues and listening to those enemies, it's just so well done, right? It's something, and the demo's free, so you can experience this for yourself. But yeah, I keep going on about the combat, but even the audio is really well implemented alongside the combat. For example, even when you're just exploring, there's water sections, and I was really surprised that Eve can actually swim. There's like a soundtrack that'll kind of play in the background, but as soon as Eve goes underwater, that soundtrack will get muffled. And I know other games have done this before. I just didn't expect that from this game, right? How many Souls-likes can you think of that have that kind of audio design where, and like swimming physics, I guess, swimming gameplay, swimming exploration, where you're going underwater in this Souls-like game, where you're going above water and the soundtrack kind of uplifts again, right? Not a lot of, I think this game is very unique, where it's breaching a genre, Souls-like games, but it's also doing its own thing by adding in these kind of exploration elements. And I think maybe one other game I can think of that did this was Jedi Fallen Order, where it had like underwater sections and whatnot. But this might be a controversial opinion. I think this game does those sections better. Just such a phenomenally done audio design and phenomenally done level design, phenomenally done gameplay. I loved all of it. So in summary, I think I've kind of ranted on a while here, but this game just looks so good, guys. I played the demo, and I cannot, there haven't been a lot of demos I've played in the past where I'm like done with the demo and I'm like, oh man, I want to play the demo again. There's even like this boss, I don't know if you can call it boss rush mode because you don't get to see all the bosses in the game, but there's a boss mode at the end of the demo once you beat the demo that allows you to fight the boss with all of the skills already given to Eve. I actually didn't like this because I kind of want to be surprised, like get each skill one by one. That progression kind of really satisfies me. So I gave that boss a couple tries, and then I realized, oh wait, I have like all the skills already given to me. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to play this because I do want to play the game when it fully comes out, and I want to earn these skill sets on my own and these perks on my own once I kind of build up the character myself. So I didn't put too much time into that, but I feel like if you just want to play the game for free, it's free. Just give it a shot, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Definitely expect more videos from me. I'm going to try and attach some gameplay to this video, but it will be kind of trailer gameplay. I don't want to spoil the demo in case anyone does want to try that out. Also, to be completely honest, I don't have a capture card for my PS5 yet. So while it's easy for me to attach PC games on my videos, it's not really easy for me to attach the PS5 gameplay on my videos. So go enjoy the demo out yourselves, and let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, maybe give me a like, and maybe subscribe if you want to see more of these kinds of videos. Take care, guys. Bye.